I haven't seen my parents for 849 days. Let's travel back in time for a minute to 2018. I was about to graduate from middle school and started dreaming of traveling abroad, fantasizing the freedom and opportunities the United States would provide an ambitious kid like me. At the young age of 13, I put on the backpack, left my parents, and went on my journey to a foreign land. On the plane, I looked out of the window and watched the hint of red slowly emerge from the horizon, just like a new chapter of my life starting to unfold. Along the way, I had many fears and trepidations. I envisioned all possibilities of my future, including what obstacles I might encounter and how I might overcome them. I was excited about the knowledge I gained and the progress I'd be able to show my parents. After arriving in Monterey, I slowly began to adapt to my new environment, and my life abroad that I longed for became the reality as everything gradually fell into place. I went home for Christmas in December of 2019. And when I hugged my parents goodbye at the airport 2 weeks later on January the 3rd, we had no idea what the next few years would bring. At that time, the World Health Organization had just published a paper on a few cases of pneumonia in Wuhan, but the pending doom of COVID was still a few weeks away. Every generation seems to have their "where were you when" moment. For my biological parents, it was the SARS virus that paralyzed Asia back in 2003. My host dad talks about the Kennedy assassination, and my host mom talks about the Berlin Wall coming down. And for many others, it's 9/11. For me and many of my peers, it is definitely the moment when the world paused on March 11th, 2020, and people entered a shifted mentality where everyone stopped living because we all feared dying. During this time, as a Chinese student, I felt an unprecedented loneliness and lack of understanding. As many other proud Chinese citizens, it was tough to watch my fellow countrymen become the victim of anti-Asian sentiments as the world struggled to make sense of the pandemic and needed to lay blame. Each day, the news was filled with skyrocketing number of confirmed cases and also horrific stories of crimes of retaliation against Asians, especially those with Chinese descent. More than 9,000 anti-Asian incidents have been reported since the pandemic began. Just like the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on May 8, 2020, the pandemic continues to unleash a tsunami of hate and xenophobia, scapegoating and scaremongering. During that time, and to this day, every time news pops up on my phone, I hesitantly glance at the headlines because I fear seeing the reports of Asians being attacked and discriminated against. My heart breaks for them all, and I wish I could ease their pain. Just as I thought that the shared trauma of being targeted would unite Chinese people all over the globe, or at least show sympathy for their fellow countrymen, I realized I was wrong again. Whenever an international student shares on social media how hard it is for them to live abroad and how much they miss their hometown and their family, the most common comments they get from Chinese people were not words of encouragement or sympathy, but responses brimming with rage and animosity. Now I want you to picture this. You are an international student in a foreign country, and you share how hard your life is during COVID. And these are the kind of comments you get from your fellow countrymen. How would you feel? These words cut like knives. they left me heartbroken. More than the discrimination against Asians, watching Chinese people rash out against each other made me sad and angry. It's a feeling akin to your family or your most trusted support suddenly no longer existing and realizing you're going at it all alone with no future and no way back. Experiencing the hostility from people on the two continents I love led to a profound feeling of sadness and longing for my family. The thoughts of them never left my consciousness, and the reality of the 6,234 miles separating us was all I could think of. I spent many an evening alone on the balcony, watching sunset to moonrise, lost in thought. There's this old Chinese poem, 海上生明月，天涯共此时. It means a bright moon slowly rises from the horizon, and my family on the other side of the world must be gazing at it at this time, just like me. I so miss my hometown, the beautiful city, and all the memories I'd made there, where everything in life felt beautiful, where I could grab my mother's hand and laugh and joke with her, and where my father would spoil me by making my favorite dish of scrambled eggs. When I reminisce, I long for the smell of flowers. Apricot blossom in the spring, lotus in the summer, sweet-scented osmanthus in the fall, and plum flowers in the winter. My thoughts were pulled back to the dark balcony with only stars and the cold moon from millions of years ago. In the breeze, I could feel my tears streaming down my cheeks, drop by drop. Those teardrops were burning hot, just like my heart longing for home and for peace. Even though I struggle with these negative emotions every day, I never once mentioned them to my family. I tried to act as if everything was fine, because I knew that even if they knew how the current situation made me feel, there was nothing they could do but being worried. At the darkest moment of my life, a light spilled in. Or perhaps the light was always there, shining on my back. I just had never realized its warmth. Because of colleges shutting down, my two host sisters came home. Friends kept joining until our social pond and family size grew to an astonishing 10 people. I really got to know my two amazing host sisters. As an essential worker, my host sister Montana's internship at a therapeutic farm continued, which result was that a great number of animals started coming in and out of our house. We had 2 day-old, bottle-fed ghosts that lived in my shower for a few days until their mama's milk came in and she was able to care for them again. We also had a nest of bunnies whose mom disappeared and needed to be fed with the syringe. We were told that there were 6, but when we counted on their arrival, we were shocked that there were 12. I remember a Zoom class pet show and tell where my host brother Andy asked us to hand him a baby kid, and we could hear Mr. Daniel taking the view on his screen and said, "Andy, is that a goat?" We also had 2 Bengal cats that lived in my room for a few months. They loved knocking things over in the middle of the night. So my couple-month life with them, it went like this. So imagine a quiet night when the whole house was dark and peaceful. My room, in contrast, was brightly lit, just me, half awake, chasing 2 cats in circles. We should have renamed those guys Tom and Jerry. Those creatures and the others that came with them brought me a lot of comfort during this time of longing and fear. Now I have to preface this by saying how lucky we were that none of our family members or friends were affected by COVID, either here or in China. So In that sense, we were unaffected by the horrors of the virus. Although we didn't get COVID, we still felt the isolation accompany the world shutting down. So to make distractions, we had frequent parties. We had karaoke nights, game nights, and even a small-scale graduation party for the 2 seniors in our house, which eventually turned into a fantastic dance party. As my host sister Hallie grabbed my hand as we jumped into the air, following the beat of music, I didn't know if anyone could hear my laughter on top of the loud music, but I knew that at least for 1 second, I was truly happy, and my laughter was pure. A glimmer of light had come back into my soul. That spring, wildfires raged in California and the air was smoky, my host mom took me to Florida, where my host sister Hallie had just taken a job as a scuba instructor. Because of time difference, I was able to get up at 11 in the morning to take online classes. And after school, we would drive to the beach and watch sunset. I was able to swim with dolphins and learn how to scuba dive with Hallie, something that was absolutely outside of my comfort zone. At first, all I wanted to do was back out because of seasickness. And for a moment, I even thought, maybe I'm just not built for diving, and maybe having all this gear on me to go into water was just not something I was ever meant to do. But Hallie had a lot of patience and a lot more confidence in me than I did in myself. Sitting on the deck of the dive boat as it rocked with the waves, Hallie kept encouraging me and reassuring me. I honestly don't remember much of what she said to me, but I just remember her looking at me with a soft and determined look in her eyes, with a smile, and her eyes reflecting the dancing of sunlight on water. Finally, I took a leap of faith and jumped into the water with Hallie by my side. And for a moment, I thought I was entering a whole new world. Hallie held tight to my oxygen tank to keep me safe and asked me with hand gestures from time to time if I was feeling okay. In her company, my rapid breathing slowed down, the decrease of heart rate and the increase of blood flow of the mammalian dive reflex kicked in the moment my face was submerged. I completely calmed down and carefully observed the colorful fish and the astonishing coral around me. I had never seen the world in this perspective before. Looking at the vibrant colors that surrounded me, I was suddenly lost in thought. My mind recalled all the recent events like playing back a movie. And I realized while I was fumbling to chase the cats in the house, while I was feeding the bunnies, while I was dancing to the music, while I was sitting on the beach bench, watching sunset and listening to the sea breeze, the feeling of a heavy stone weighing down my heart lightened little by little. And I realized that I've been home all along. With my host family's love and support, they got me to see the world in the most beautiful way, washing away my worries repeatedly like the sea, like the waves in front of me. They made me realize that family can take many forms and that they seamlessly fill the void left by me missing my parents. Although they never said anything, they never let go of my hand until I was pulled out of the gloom and was able to see the world in brighter colors again. Suddenly, I was pulled back to the underwater world by Hallie, who saw me staring into the distance and asked me with hand gestures if I was feeling all right. I gave her an okay back. And this time, I truly meant it. Hallie nodded and gestured me to swim after another beautiful school of fish. Hallie didn't see my relieved smile or the glistering of tears in my eyes behind the mask. And the regulator in my mouth stopped my words of gratitude in my heart from spilling out. At the peak of the pandemic in the US, China sent many planes to the US to pick up international students to return home. I remember the call from the embassy providing me with a seat on the plane. While other kids are panicking because the recent events, crying and begging their parents to get them a ticket home, I was able to calmly and confidently say on the phone, "It's okay, I will stay. I'm not alone, I have my family here." As long as my family and I were safe, it's okay to be separated for a short while. Because of the long quarantine time still effective in China, this being the pivotal summer of college application and the exorbitant price of the airfare, I am now counting on embracing my parents this coming Christmas. And by that time, our time apart will stop at 1,084 days. I will take a good long while to just sit down and look at them, so I won't feel like forgetting their faces again. I will study the beautiful faces of my grandparents, commit to memory every line and wrinkle on their faces, battle scars for their children and grandchildren. I will tell them all about my family in America and how they took care of me, how we took care of each other. I'm sure my parents would be overjoyed and grateful that I was fortunate enough to meet some people who are willing to embrace me, help me, and love me just like they do. COVID turned out to be a great test to us all, graded only by how we respond to adversity. And I've learned that we will always encounter obstacles we think we will never be able to overcome, but one must not be immersed in sadness. We should dry our tears, look around, and the people who love you have always been standing next to you, silently holding up an umbrella for you. Thank you.